Imagine a vault, not a bank vault, not some high-tech data fortress, but a cave carved into the sheer face of a desert cliff. And inside that cave, sealed for over 1,000 years, a library. Not just a few dusty scrolls, but 50,000 documents. An entire civilization's recorded thought, sutras, government decrees, star charts, folk songs, legal contracts, drawings of things that defy easy explanation, all locked away. The question is just how they survived the desert, but why they were so carefully, so deliberately hidden in the first place. That's the anomaly our algorithms flagged at Mogao, deep in the Gobi Desert.
The discovery, or rather the rediscovery, occurred in 1900. A Taoist monk, Wang Yuanlu, self-appointed guardian of the Mogao grottos, noticed a fissure in the wall of Cave 16. Behind it lay Cave 17, now famously known as the Library Cave. It was precisely as described, a small, unassuming chamber, utterly crammed floor to ceiling with manuscripts, scrolls, paintings, and textiles. The estimated volume was staggering, far exceeding any known single repository from that era. The latest dated document within the cache was from 1002 CE, suggesting the sealing took place shortly thereafter, likely in 1006 CE. This places the closure squarely within the Western Xia dynasty's expansion period, a time of significant cultural flux along the Silk Road.
The official story often whispers impending invasion, a desperate act to safeguard knowledge from the advancing Tangut armies. But 50,000 documents, that's not a quick grab and stash, that's an organised, methodical burial. And if it was just about safekeeping, why seal it so completely, so discreetly that it remained lost for a millennium? Why wasn't it reopened when the threat passed? This isn't a storage locker. This feels like a tomb for inconvenient truths.
Precisely. The standard narrative of Tangut invasion as the sole impetus for the sealing of Cave 17 presents several inconsistencies. While the threat was indeed real, the method and contents of the cache complicate a purely defensive interpretation. The documents are not exclusively Buddhist, nor are they limited to sacred texts. They comprise an eclectic, almost chaotic cross section of daily life, intellectual pursuits, and spiritual practices spanning several centuries and cultures. The condition of the scrolls, meticulously bundled and stacked, suggests a deliberate, organized effort rather than a rushed evacuation. Furthermore, many of the texts are not canonical or widely disseminated. There are local administrative documents, tax records, personal letters, items one would typically discard or leave behind in an emergency, not meticulously preserved. This argues against a wholesale salvage operation and leans more towards a curated or perhaps condemned collection.
Okay, so it wasn't just a fire drill. This was an executive decision. Someone, or some group, saw this specific collection and decided it needed to vanish. Not destroyed, but inaccessible. What kind of material, beyond the mundane, would warrant such a drastic, long-term suppression?
This is where the contents become truly anomalous. Beyond the expected Buddhist sutras, the library cave yielded a trove of Manichaean texts, a dualistic Gnostic religion once widespread but later persecuted. There were Nestorian Christian manuscripts, Zoroastrian scriptures, and even some very early Jewish liturgical fragments. These were not dominant ideologies in China at the time of the sealing, and their presence in such volume, alongside mainstream Buddhist and Taoist works, speaks to a deeply syncretic intellectual environment that was perhaps deemed volatile. Furthermore, we find highly esoteric Buddhist texts, some describing practices that diverge significantly from established monastic traditions, bordering on what might be considered heretical. There are documents outlining tantric rituals, alchemy, divination methods, and proto scientific observations that might have challenged orthodox cosmological views. The implications of these alternative knowledge systems coexisting and then being collectively interred are profound.
So it's not just about protecting valuable texts. It's about quarantining ideas. It's about containing an intellectual contagion, a deliberate culling of the historical record, not through destruction, but through an enforced silence. This isn't just a historical footnote. This is a blueprint for ideological control. And the fact that we're only now piecing together these fragments, scattered across institutions in London, Paris, St. Petersburg, Beijing, it means the original intent of the sealing, the coherent narrative of what was being suppressed, remains fragmented and obscured.
Indeed, the scattering of the collection began almost immediately after its discovery. European explorers like Oral Stein and Paul Pelliot, hearing rumors, arrived and through various means, including direct purchase from Wang Yuanlu, acquired vast quantities of the scrolls. The British Library, the Bibliothèque Nationale de France, and the Russian Academy of Sciences now house the majority of these texts, alongside collections in China and Japan. This dispersal has created a unique intellectual challenge. No single institution holds the complete picture. Researchers must travel globally, comparing disparate fragments to reconstruct a semblance of the original archive scope. Consider the Diamond Sutra, found in Cave 17, the earliest dated complete printed book from 868 CE. It's a monumental artifact. But alongside it were astronomical charts that mapped comets and supernovae with unsettling accuracy for the period, and medical treatises detailing surgical procedures and pharmacological compounds that predate similar developments in the West by centuries. There are even documents describing complex automata, miniature machines driven by water or sand, that demonstrate an advanced mechanical understanding rarely attributed to this period. These aren't just curiosities. They represent parallel intellectual paths that were effectively erased from mainstream historical progression. The collective burying of such diverse and potentially disruptive knowledge suggests an attempt to homogenize cultural narrative, to eliminate dissenting or alternative truths from the public consciousness.
So it wasn't just about what they didn't want the Tanguts to get. It was about what they didn't want anyone to get for 1,000 years. It's almost like a firewall against certain conceptual frameworks. Imagine an entire generation, entire centuries, shaped by a curated reality, unaware of the breadth of thought that was deliberately withheld. And now, as we reassemble these fragments, what are we actually discovering? Are we unlocking forgotten wisdom, or are we encountering the intellectual equivalent of ancient biological agents, potent ideas that were quarantined for a reason we still don't fully comprehend?
The psychological impact of such a deliberate act of historical redaction is profound. We are not merely uncovering history, we are discovering a history that was intended to remain hidden. The concept of heresy at the time extended beyond religious doctrine. It encompassed political dissidents, scientific theories that contradicted established cosmology, or philosophical ideas that threatened social hierarchy. For instance, among the documents are legal codes and petitions revealing local governance structures and popular grievances that diverge sharply from official imperial chronicles. There are also texts written in unknown or highly obscure scripts, some possibly local dialects, others potentially code or symbolic representations, whose meaning remains elusive even to modern epigraphers. One such scroll contains intricate geometric patterns interspersed with what appear to be instructions for spiritual navigation or inner alchemy, suggesting an entire esoteric tradition lost to time. The raw data of the human experience, unfiltered by subsequent editorial oversight, reveals a far more complex, contentious, and intellectually daring past than commonly understood. It forces us to question the very foundations of our historical narratives, built often on what survived rather than what was suppressed. The Mogao cache stands as a testament to the fragility of memory and the power of deliberate omission.
This isn't just an archaeological dig, it's an autopsy of a silenced epoch, and the implications ripple far beyond the Gobi. If such an extensive, diverse archive could be hidden for a millennium, what else is out there? What other truths, what other potential evolutionary pathways for human thought have been deliberately buried? It forces us to look at every official history, every dominant narrative, and ask, what did they leave out? What did they seal away because it was too dangerous, too complex, or too inconvenient to exist?
The library cave at Mogao provides a chilling precedent. It demonstrates that the intentional sequestration of knowledge is not a theoretical construct, but a historical reality. The ripple effect of its scattered release is that we are now assembling a jigsaw puzzle with pieces distributed globally, many still unstudied, others perhaps deliberately downplayed due to their subversive content. Each recovered fragment has the potential to rewrite entire chapters of intellectual and social history. But the original context, the full tapestry of meaning intended by those who sealed it, remains irrevocably fractured. We may never fully grasp the complete threat or the complete truth that necessitated such a profound act of concealment.
And that's the lingering chill, isn't it? The Mogao caves offer us not a solution, but a question. Not an answer about lost knowledge, but a stark reminder of what can be lost, and more disturbingly, what has been deliberately taken from us. The desert winds still whisper around those caves, and you have to wonder what secrets they're still guarding, beyond the ones we've only just begun to unearth. What else is buried, waiting to warp our understanding of who we are and where we truly came from?